Hello everyone and welcome to another interview series, and this time we are going to tackle invitationals and specifically Fight Night, the last Fight Night NA, and today we have with us the runner-up, which was Henneky, and the winner MajiinBae. How are you doing, guys?
Doing good, doing good.
How about you, Bae?
Yep, same. Doing all right. Losing on ladder, you know how it is.
Yeah.
Losing on ladder, being plat 4, casually winning tournaments, the life of a champion, the suffering.
The life, yep.
Actually, before we go into the actual decks that you have brought and the actual experience, what have you been trying on ladder lately, or what are you most fond of? What's your baby in this new meta? Bae, for example, what are you trying now?
I've been trying a lot of all-in Shurima Lee Sin, which doesn't work as often as I would like it to. And then I was big on the concurrent timelines Karina, like day one with the Ledros combo. I played a ton of that. I still play it now, but I'm trying to find other decks.
Degenerate. Who said that? No, not me.
That's actually what I put in like my seasonal thing, and they said, "What? Like, how would you describe yourself as a card game player?" They're like, "Are you a mid-range player?" And I put degenerate.
How about you, Henneky? What have you been trying lately?
I actually didn't get a ton of chance to play like when this season patch first came out because like I had an exam on the Thursday, so I didn't really get to play until I started prepping for Fight Night. So I've mostly just been playing this list on the screen, the Diana Felios, but it's felt really good, and it's been pretty fun to play. And then I've also played some absolute garbage. I've tried some of the Lucian Azir, and I've also played Soraka Renekton, which I never want to do again. But yeah, I've just been trying out a bunch of stuff. Like I tried for a while to make Talia work, and it's not working out too well because I don't think the champ's that great. But yeah, just trying a whole bunch of different things, throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, I guess.
Yes, since you mentioned that you have been trying this list that we are seeing on the screen, and since it is hidden in play site, let's just tackle the list. And first and foremost, why did you bring the list to Fight Night? What were you aiming for with this?
I made it a goal to try and put at least one new card into my lineup. So I put literally one set of new cards into my lineup, which was this Unto Dust card. But it was a concept I really wanted to try because like this like framework of deck had kind of worked before in the past, like the invoke with atrocity strats. I think there's been a lot of different things in this shape, but I thought that Unto Dust was like a phenomenal card, and with like Aphelios and especially with Diana, and it kind of proved itself. I think this deck is really good, and it's not, and maybe not in this form exactly, but this like structure is like one of the strongest deck formats, I guess, for a deck in the current meta.
Talking about cards that have proven themselves, 2 copies of the Flight, what is the reason behind playing this card in the deck?
The Flight's just a really good card, I think, especially for Nightfall archetype, because it's a way to get a lot of early pressure, and it doesn't give up any card advantage because it basically puts itself back in the hand. Like, because it goes back to the deck, it's almost like you just put it straight back to your hand because it's just gonna. Yes, you get the draw, but then you have to find it. You have to draw it again one more time. So it's nice that you can get some chip damage in the early game with the Flight, while also not giving up card advantage pretty much. And the thing is, if you get your 1-drop back, you can keep using it as a Nightfall activator for a variety of different cards. Because if you play something like Solari Soldier or one of the other 1-drops, you play it once, and then that's that, and you can't really do it again. But the Flight is permanent, which is really good for this structure.
How about the 2 copies of Doombeast? Is it there because you do have synergy with Onto Dusk, or is there something more to it?
Yeah, so you do want more Unto Dusk targets, but Doombeast, in my opinion, is also just a really good card for mid-range and anti-aggro kind of things because it gives you a body as a blocker, it drains 2 HP, and it also pressures Nexus. So like even if you're going against a slower like late game deck, you can take some HP off and then have them at lower HP, which puts you in a better spot for late game, because it means like if you have a star shaping unit down, then they're in atrocity range and they have to be really wary of that. And like I had Stalking Shadows at the time, and it's another good pull for Stalking Shadows. I think that's a card that in the future I would be cutting, but definitely also just having the Unto Dusk targets is a important thing too, because you don't want to just be playing it onto Diana and Aphelios. Diana, when she's leveled up, she gets the Unto Dusk proc off of whatever you put Unto Dusk on, so you don't really need it to be onto her. So the more Nightfall units you have, it gets a little bit better.
And last but not least question regarding this list, why the split between Atrocity, one copy of Atrocity and one of Vengeance?
So I kind of expected like a lot of people to be bringing the Karina one-shot thing. So I kind of expected to Hashes and Vengeances just to have answers, because if they really commit to it, they're putting their whole 9-mana turn into it. You kill the Dreadway, and you probably still have some board, and you're just going to win from there. And that was a deck that was brought. I think someone had it, but it didn't end up getting played against me personally.
Right, and now bouncing to you, Bae. You see this list that is very well rounded, has a lot of one-offs, a lot of two-offs. You see that this list is prepared. What is your first reaction when you see it?
I was very scared of this list. Because it's like aggressively slanted, but this deck can easily outvalue the TFF Helios deck that I brought, which is like one of the highest like value engine decks out there. The 3 star shaping and the 1 of Atrocity were really what scared me, because they can just go bigger. And then with the addition of Unto Dusk and 3 Veiled Temples, you're just gonna have a hard time keeping up with their engines if you don't get yours online. And then the late game like power of the 3 star shaping and the 1 Atrocity really showed in our match. I had to put him on Atrocity for like the second half of a game, and it completely restricted my plays. And I ended up losing that game because of it. It's just a very strong deck. I was a little worried to run into it.
This is kind of the general feeling of the players, that you are not scared of free-offs cards, you know that they are there, but what about that sneaky one-off that might be or might be not? What if the opponent is representing 6 flux mana? That feeling. But let's move forward to your next deck list. And for those of you guys that are watching now, this tournament only implies 2 deck lists, and there is going to be no ban best of 3. So moving forward, the last list that Henneky brought was, it was Fizz Twisted Fate. And if this deck doesn't see a nerf, I'm gonna eat my hat. I don't have one, but I'm going to buy one in order to eat it. So, is there any special introduction, Henneky, that this deck needs? Or did you change anything to make it more special?
Okay, so I was actually going to put 1 Death Ray in the morning, like when we were submitting our deck list. I dropped the Zap Sprayfin and put in 1 Death Ray because I expected that I was going to be against aggro. And then I think I forgot to save it, and then I copied the link and submitted it. In my first game, I drew the 3rd Zap Sprayfin, and I was like panicking because I thought I was playing the wrong list from the one I had submitted. And then I checked, and it turns out I had submitted the correct list that I was playing, and I just hadn't put the tech in. So I was just like playing as if I had a card that I completely didn't. But no, now I just have the generic boring list.
Yeah, I think the Death Ray MK1 list was the tech that you were running, Bae, in the seasonal list. Am I right?
Yeah, for a little help in the mirror.
Alright. Was that the reasoning as well for you, Henneky, trying to make the mirror a little bit sweeter?
Yeah, I wanted the mirror a little bit. It's also a good card for like aggro matchups as well. It prevents you from getting rushed down. Like, the things I was worried about for this deck were like the Shadow Isles lineups that were probably going to come, like the Karina or the Trundle, Ledros, Lissandra control. But you can't bring 2 Shadow Isles decks in this format, so I wasn't worried about playing against both of them. So the only worry for TF Fizz losing both matchups in my head was losing against a double aggro lineup that would try and outrush it. So I wanted to have the death ray for that, but I didn't end up. Well, I guess I did end up playing an aggro lineup, but I just ended up winning the Fizz TF mirror. So
You've been mentioning the new sensation, the Trundle, Lidros, Lissandra control. And did you scream into that deck before? And if you did, what was your impression? We're going to go through a list, through MajiinBae's list later, but what was your impression if you tested it?
like particularly against TF Fizz or
Yes.
just in general?
Yes, particularly against TF Fizz.
It's definitely a struggle for TF Fizz. I think in the finals we played it twice and I lost it both times. It's just really hard because like they can just keep passing, and when you develop boards, they have tons of AOE for your big burbles, and it's also hard to stick TF because they will end up having the answers for that for the most part. So it all comes down to like you can get suit ups down and maybe burn them out. I played one game against Yon where I was able to win that matchup, but it was definitely a struggle. I was definitely down to my like last little piece of burn, and I drew like 3 get exciteds to get there. So yeah, definitely a hard matchup for the deck.
Yeah. And Bae, were you surprised that people are still going to bring Fizz TF and not get bored or maybe try new cards, new decks? Or did you just expect, alright, somebody wants to win the money, they're going to go for Fizz TF?
I expected at least 4 people to bring Fizz TF. Because it's a tournament, and we as tournament players don't always have the ability to just play whatever we want. You just have to play the best thing sometimes.
And you mentioned before that you do need some decks that you can toy around with, not necessarily the best decks, but something that you feel comfortable with, you can switch around, especially for other tournaments that are best of 3 and so forth. We've been picking your brain about what Henneky has brought, and now we're going to pick your brain about what you brought. Because the first deck is going to be the tender, loving, caring Trundle, Lissandra, Lidros control.
Yep. So I wanted to play a new deck, and I wanted to play one new deck and one deck I was like already comfortable with. This is the new deck, and the way I picked it is it's gonna sound really stupid, but I played like 3 games of 3 different decks, and I just picked whichever one won the most games. I played like this, Karina, and like the Shurima Lee. And this one won all 3 games, and I went, well, okay, I guess we're playing this. I did tweak it to beat Fizz TF, because I was like, as long as I can have a deck that just stomps Fizz TF, I'll feel pretty comfortable. This is why you see like the 3 Ice Shards, the 3 Avalanches, and the 3 Blighted Ravines. I just never wanted to lose the matchup. Yeah, the deck is very strong. I lost a lot of mirrors, because it's very draw dependent in the mirror. It's like, oh, my opponent has Trundle and I don't. Well, I lose. Oh, my opponent has, I drew Ledros and they haven't. Well, I win. And that kind of sucks. But yeah, the list is strong. I like it.
Did you encounter when testing the other Trundle Lissandra list, the one that runs Ionia, that is supposed to be more favored into this list?
It is definitely more favored into this list, but the Ionia one has a slightly less good matchup against TF Fizz because you lose like Withering Wail and Ruination. And I just want to beat TF Fizz.
It's interesting because Henneky said that he wants at least one new card into the new decks. No, you completely ramped it up and you said, no, I just want a new deck. I want to shine here. I want to feel like
I want to bring one new deck. Yeah.
This is like I don't know. This is like an old deck, but with a few new cards. But you know, yeah.
It's not like new, but it gets the job done.
Yeah, you just see Trundle Lissandra control and then they just show off their masks and oops, it is just Feel the Rush.
It's just Feel the Rush, yeah.
Yeah. Also, the reason why you chose this list, imagine other people making calculations, trying to go over the possibilities, and MajiinBae there, alright, the roulette, what is it going to be?
What's it going to be? Yeah, you'll see in my next list. I needed to put a little more thought into my lineup, most likely. I'll go over my TFF Helios, but it's not optimal, let's say.
Alright, let's see this
I like the list.
Optimal list, but no more Tamkench. Why? Why did we ditch poor Tommy Gunn?
So I played Tom Kench in top 32. One, so I could also play TF Fizz because I just wanted people to ban my TF Fizz. And I think Tom Kench Aphelios is better into TF Aphelios. Like, I think it has an edge in the mirror, maybe like 55-45, not super strong. But it's stronger against the decks that I came to beat in top 32. I wanted to beat Fior Shen. I wanted to beat the TF, like the Aphelios mirrors, and I wanted to beat Zoe Lee. And Tom Kench does that very well, where Twisted Fate is much stronger into like the Fizz TF and low to the ground aggro decks, which I planned on banning. So here I just wanted a stronger deck against the aggro list because in Fizz TF because I can't ban anything. But if you're looking at it, you might notice the absence of the Fangs, which I played in top 32. And this was a mistake. I didn't look at the list before I just copied my code and pasted it. And I forgot that I had been trying some new things without the Fangs just to like see. And I hated it. I hated the deck without the Fangs. But I submitted it. And then, yeah, I like loaded into my first game and my deck tracker popped up. And I was like, it's all good. You know, we're like halfway through the game. I still have 3 copies of the Fangs. And then I looked and he wasn't there. And I was like, oh no, this is not good. It ended up working out, but I missed the card. Play the Fangs if you play this deck.
So, queuing a deck, you don't look really at it and then you find out in the mid-game that it's not really your deck. Sounds familiar, Henneky?
Yeah, I've seen that one before.
It's
Luckily,
funny
it was
because
close enough.
there are so many similarities or counter similarities. Henneky wanted to try a new card, Bae wanted to try a whole new deck. Both of you submitted a list that wasn't the optimal list you expected, and you made it to the final.
And we made it to the final.
So, conclusion, the strategy in Fight Night is pick a player and try to mirror them as much as possible. Like, try to bring the same wrong deck or a wrong deck, try to, I don't know, mirror their ritual before the games, and then you win. Or at least make the final.
Yeah, at least.
I would actually like to ask you both, first starting with you, Bae, what is your impression on the Fight Night tournament or the Fight Night format more
The
slightly?
format?
Yeah, the format itself. I am curious about your impression.
It's fun. It's different. Like, I know I get to play the decks I bring, and that's pretty cool. I would probably like to see it move towards whatever the most like used competitive format is. So right now that's the Riot Lock format. Just because I think since we don't have too many tournaments, people can use these to like gauge what's good and what's not. And it skews the results a bit if you can bring 2 decks and get to play both of them. Like because if this were a Riot Lock format, everyone, including me, would bring TF Fizz and then 2 other decks, most likely. And that would show like just how dominant in tournament TF Fizz is. But in this format, it kind of gives off a different message because you have people like me who would bring TF Aphelios and then 1 other deck built to beat TF Fizz instead. So that's my opinion. I would like the tournaments to be mostly the same structure. I feel like you get better information that way.
How about you, Henneky? What was overall your experience with the format? Or what are your thoughts on the format?
The format's interesting. I think there's like less you can do, I think, compared to the best to the 3-deck ban 1 format. Like, you can't have a plan where you're gonna say, I'm gonna ban this particular list and then bring 3 decks that are weak to this. Like, you have to either like pick 2 decks that are like completely different and then just like flip a coin when you're blindly picking, or you bring 2 decks that beat one person's 1 deck and hope you find the right people with the right decks. And so it's very like limiting in terms of what you can actually do, but it's good because like you're always going to get to play the decks that you pick. And so if you really want to show something off, like something interesting or new that you want to bring to the table, then it's a good opportunity to do that because it's not just going to get banned out or sit on the sidelines for the entire tournament.
All right, and I do have another curiosity. Now the tournament is done and dusted, you have been the finalist, but before the tournament, did you have any player that you were fearing facing? For example, Henneky, did you have anyone that you don't really want to face, maybe hope they get eliminated by someone else?
I don't think so. I was pretty happy to play everyone. I've really just been, like, over the past couple of weeks, I guess the past week, with the seasonal and fight night. Like I've just had a chance to play competitive matches against a lot of really great players, and it's been a lot of fun. I think like I was getting a bit burnt out on the game, but like getting to play the game at the highest level with the best players is just really fun.
How about you, Bae? Were you excited to play against the players? Did you want to perform all, or just have fun because the tournament is fun in itself?
No, I'm with Henneky. I like to play against the best players. I think playing at that, like, the higher up in like level of competition you go, the more fun it is for me. Even if I'm gonna like mess around and bring a new deck that's maybe not as good, I just like to play against great players. I think it's more entertaining for the both of us. You learn a lot. But that being said, I did lose to Ian Oguera, and he knocked me into losers. And then I played him, ended up playing him again. And I was like, if this man 2-0s me after I beat him in the finals of seasonal, I'll feel pretty bad. So I was a little worried on that second match, but we ended up taking it down.
All right, now you are 2-1. Or did you encounter Ian previously besides the seasonal and fight night?
I don't think so. Maybe like once, but I'm not sure.
Alright, so we'll leave it at 2-1 for you. As of now, who knows what is going to happen in the next tournaments. You mentioned that you learn a few things if you are playing against the top of the top. For example, what would be, let's say, one advice for Henneky after you played against him?
Don't run TFIz into a 19 board wipe deck. He played great. Like, he played phenomenally. There's just, when I had like the Lissandra deck and he had the TFIz deck, there's just nothing he can do. It's not a fault of his, no misplays or anything. I think he piloted the Diana Aphelios deck fantastically. I'm actually going to go back and watch those with some people as like a learning tool. So yeah, no real advice.
How about you, Henneky? Do you have something that would step up MajiinBae's game even more? Not that it is not already stepped up and he won everything under the sun in the last few weeks, but who knows?
I think sometimes you gotta just take the swings. I mean, I only beat him in one game. He beat me 4 games in a row while I played TFIz over and over, and I just got stomped. But the one game I won, he had a chance to go for the Atro, but I guess I had a couple answers that I could have that would work out if I just had the perfect hand, but I had like 3 cards in hand. Sometimes you just gotta take the risk, I guess. I don't know. I probably wouldn't go for it either, but maybe sometimes it's better.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. Totally right. I had thought I could pull away in the late game and increase my advantage, and that ended up not being the case. And then I kind of got like forked into a bad decision, and just lost to like his own atrocity, which was what I was trying to prevent. I was like, oh, I could throw my Ledros, but if he has his own atrocity or like atrocity plus something else, like I just lose here, so I'll just wait. And it definitely, in hindsight, would have been better for me to just fire it off and cross my fingers.
That's why we're here, and it's awesome that you can share the experience with the other player and go through the thought process and through the games. Now, before we actually wrap it up, who did you guys prepare with? Henneky, who did you prepare with for this tournament? If maybe you want to give them a shout out, show some love to them.
I don't think I prepared with anyone. I just kind of, the morning of, just picked some decks and went for it, I guess. I don't know.
Shout out to Henneky and Henneky only.
Yeah, shout out to me.
How
about you, Bae? Who did you prepare with?
I also didn't really prepare with anyone. I just played on ladder at 2:00 in the morning. So I guess shout out to all the people on ladder who beat my mono Shurima, my all-in Shurima Lee deck, because that deck's not very good, and it forced me to bring something else.
Alright, so shout out to both Henneky and MajiinBae only. Who would you guys want to face in the next tournament? Do you have a familiar face that you wanna play against or didn't get the chance to and desperately want to? Henneky, do you want to face someone in particular?
I think we gotta get Stan in there just for the whole Twitter thing yesterday.
I mean, Stan is just going to be there and prove the point that he is one of the best tournaments. I think I named him on one of the casts. He's like a cephalopod of the Brazil. Like, he is present in every single tournament. He just takes them all. How about you, Bae? Who do you wanna see?
Yeah, I'd love to see Stan in there. That man just like doesn't lose on tournaments. But I always like to see like Kever and Raptaro because I think they're some of the strongest players in NA right now. Also, What Am I has been low key crushing tournaments forever. He's in the top 8 of everything, even if he doesn't take it down. So I would like to see him in there as well.
I have to talk a bit with What Am I. I mean, Jordan is doing great, but we need to give him some lucky charm or something, because if you're watching his games, man, the draws. He is unbeatable, but the draws.
They can be rough, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes the heart of the cards doesn't work. Sometimes the heart is broken and you do need to replace it too with a mechanical one. But that is a story for another time. Thank you both guys for being here with us, sharing your experience, and most likely the audience is going to learn something from this. Thank you very much. Congratulations again. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to see you next time.